Hi everyone, so today we're going to be looking at Classicism, which is the first chronologically in the order that we're going to be looking at. So Classicism started kind of at the ancient Greek, ancient Roman times, and it was used to describe a lot of their works and a lot of their art and architecture. So basically its main features are Roman and Greek based principles. It's a lot to do with harmony and restraint and basically conformity, adhering to the recognised standards of form and craftsmanship at the time. So while of course it started in the ancient Roman and ancient Greek times, it was also very popular in the Renaissance and the 16th century all the way to the 18th century with the Age of Enlightenment. So those things brought about neoclassicism and classicism, which was all about the Greek principles and trying to replicate that as much as they could. So neoclassicism coincided with the 18th century of Enlightenment, and it continued into the early 19th century where it competed with Romanticism a bit. So Renaissance classicism introduced mathematics into art and introduced humanism. The classics of the Renaissance led to a different sense of what was classical, and it was very structured in terms of the French belief about what is classicism in theatre. Was developed by 17th century playwrights from what they believed to be the rules of classical theatre. Of Greek classical theatre. So they had the classical unities of time, place and action. So basically unity of time referred to the need for the entire action of the play to be in a 24-hour time period. Unity of place meant that the action should be in a single location, and unity of action meant that the play should be constructed around a single plot line, such as a tragic love affair or conflict between good and evil and honor and duty or something like that. So very singular. It was very predictable, and it was very orderly. The use of geometry in art and architecture, and even in plays as well. The importance of rigorous discipline and pedagogy. So examples of the appeal to classicism were people like Dante and Shakespeare in poetry and theatre. Tudor drama in particular modelled itself after classical ideals, and it divided works into tragedy and comedy, which is very traditional of the Greek. The ancient Greek dramas divided themselves into tragedy or comedy. So in tragedies, Euripides. The principle of the golden rectangle in terms of architecture, the big columns, the big white columns around the place, and the classical orders, and a lot of the ornaments that were classified as Greek and Roman classical architecture. The Age of Enlightenment, while it was still very much classicism, it was shaken a bit by the physics of Sir Isaac Newton. The movements in machinery and measurement as the sense of liberation they saw with things like Greek civilization against the Persian Empire and that kind of stuff. The 19th century saw Classicism as being the precursor of academicism, and the Romantic period saw themselves as rebelling against the Classicism, and Classicism saw themselves rebelling against Romanticism. So they were always at war with each other, because Romanticism is all about freedom and reject the conformity and the emotional, and Classicism was like, no, conform and don't be so emotional, and just go with the rigid structure of the way things are, stick with the status quo, don't be like this, be like this. Very descriptive. So some examples of French classical playwrights who use the unity of time, place, and action. For example, Pierre Corneille and Molière. I hope I said that right. In English theatre, William Shakespeare and his contemporaries did not follow the classicist philosophy of unity of time, place, and action, because they were not French, and also because they wrote several decades prior to their establishment. So several decades prior to the actual coming up with the three unities. Those of Shakespeare's plays that seem to display the unities, like the Tempest, probably indicate a familiarity with actual classic and antiquity. So he was probably familiar with a lot of those ancient Greek plays and picked up on those patterns, kind of thing. And you see the Tempest is very much about a moral conflict and just one kind of center of action. Like, yeah, there's the side love story kind of thing, but it's all focused around Prospero and whether he gets revenge or accepts that we're all human and forgives the people that betrayed him. Yeah, so that is classicism. I hope I made that clear, but it's basically going along with the standard status quo. It's a lot about restraint, not very emotional. It is quite intellectual, and it is very Greek and Roman, and lots of white pillars and the Greek statues, and if you think of them, then that might help you remember what classicism is, or something like that. So yeah, I hope you guys found this helpful. Please let me know if there's anything I can improve on, or if you want any questions answered about anything. My next video I think will be on Romanticism, because chronologically that's next. And it did overlap with classicism quite a lot. Of course, this wasn't the only literary period that was going on at that period, but it is definitely the most prominent. And yeah, so thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it and hope you found it helpful. Bye!